Hello, I'm Esther Giduyot. It's Monday, March 28th. This is Africa 54.
As the war waged by Russia on neighboring Ukraine enters its fifth week, U.S. officials clarify comments by President Biden that Washington is seeking a regime change in Russia. Nigerians trapped in the Ukrainian Black Sea port city of Kherson take huge risks in a bid to leave. And Hollywood makes history and controversy at the Academy Awards ceremony in Los Angeles.
As Russian forces continue to lay waste to Ukrainian cities with airstrikes and heavy artillery, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says his country's sovereignty and territorial integrity are a priority as Ukraine and Russia head into a new round of peace talks. Turkey is set to host the latest round of talks. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan spoke by phone on Sunday with Russian President Vladimir Putin, with Erdogan's office saying he stressed the need for a ceasefire and more humanitarian aid in the region. Meanwhile, teachers, parents and older students worked together in northeast Ukraine on Sunday to clear rubble and debris after a school was hit by a missile in Kharkiv, according to Reuters. Local residents are also helping to remove debris from what remains of the school. Russian airstrikes have hit residential areas, schools and hospitals in Ukrainian cities, including Kharkiv and the besieged seaport of Mariupol on the southeast coast. Britain's defense ministry says there has been no significant change to the movement of Russian forces in occupied Ukraine in the past day, and that Russian forces are being hindered by a lack of momentum and morale. The United Nations says the Russian invasion of Ukraine has pushed 10 million people to leave their homes, with nearly 4 million people fleeing the country. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken visited Israel Monday, joining a rare summit of Arab nations and Israel, seeking to reassure Middle Eastern allies over a looming Iran nuclear deal and to garner stronger support for Ukraine. The high-level Middle East meeting by Israel and the 4 Arab nations attending Bahrain, Egypt, Morocco and the United Arab Emirates comes as U.S. allies in the Middle East raise concerns over what they see as a lack of commitment by U.S. President Joe Biden's administration to the region. On his trip to Europe last week, U.S. President Joe Biden said Russian President Vladimir Putin, quote, cannot remain in power. But later, U.S. officials clarified that Washington is not seeking a regime change in Russia. VOA's Arasha Basadi has more.
A salvo of Caliber cruise missiles launched from the Black Sea in the south of Ukraine as Russia's war on its neighbor enters a second month. The Russian Defense Ministry claims it fired upon infrastructure of the Ukrainian armed forces. Meanwhile, in the Ukrainian city of Lviv, firefighters work to extinguish a blaze at fuel storage facilities hit by Russian cruise missiles. The next day, people seek comfort and prayer at Lviv's Church of the Holy Eucharist. Russia's invasion of Ukraine was the focus of a speech delivered by President Joe Biden in Poland's capital, Warsaw, on Saturday.
Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia, for free people refused to live in a world of hopelessness and darkness. We will have a different future, a brighter future, rooted in democracy and principles, hope and light, of decency and dignity, of freedom and possibilities. For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
The president's speech capped a 4-day trip to Europe where he visited members of the 82nd Airborne Division and Ukrainian refugees in Poland. The White House later clarified his off-the-script comments, saying Biden was not advocating regime change in Moscow, and other U.S. officials made clear Sunday that is not Washington's policy.
Anytime you say, or even as he did, suggest that the policy was regime change, it's going to cause a huge problem. This administration has done everything they can to stop escalating. There's not a whole lot more you can do to escalate than to call for regime change.
Others say Biden's remark at the end of his speech about Putin should not be the focus.
This should not overshadow what was an extraordinarily important and successful trip to Europe, one that the U.S. really led, as it has done so impressively, really, throughout this entire effort, and pulled together, guided, and then ultimately with this speech it was a very, very strong statement, obviously.
As Russian shelling continues, thick smoke fills the air in destroyed residential areas on the outskirts of Kyiv.
Everybody should be concentrated over one goal, to make sure that Ukraine is capable, financially stable to resist and defend until the political solution, how to restore the territorial integrity of Ukraine and a peace around Europe, is there.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, in an address, echoed calls for tanks, armored vehicles, and jets. He compared the Russian invasion to the way Nazis tried to conquer Europe 80 years ago, adding that no one will forgive them. Arash Erbasadi, VOA News.
Relatives of Nigerian students trapped in the Ukrainian city of Kherson are calling on authorities to do more to return them safely home. Timothy Obiezu reports from Abuja.
Lizzie Ogaji searches through her phone for an update on the war in Ukraine, hoping for positive news, but finding little to lift her hopes. Her brother's trapped in Kherson, a Ukrainian city occupied by invading Russian forces. She says he tried to escape the war-torn city this week, but was turned around by the Russian military.
I am worried, like seriously worried, because each time I turn to the television, turn to the channel, listen to seeing the headlines and the news. In short, my heart aches.
Kherson fell to Russian forces in early March, days after the invasion started, trapping hundreds of international students like Ogaji's brother in the city. For weeks, they have been living in extremely cold bomb shelters with limited access to food, medicines, and the internet. Nigerian authorities have promised to evacuate the students, but say that can only happen with a ceasefire in place. Many students have been making individual escape attempts. Jerry Kenny, who mobilized a pack of foreign nationals trapped in Kherson, just made it out.
We ran out of food, water, and I was out of cash.
Some other students escaping Kherson have received aid from non-profit groups trying to evacuate foreign nationals from the city. Danielle Onyekwere from US-based Diaspora Relief says the evacuations are risky and expensive.
Right now, we're not going off of any safe corridor. There is no humanitarian corridor as of this time. What we're going off with is just routes that we know locals have taken, that they made it. So it's still a risk on its own, but it's just like, why not try then, still stay stranded there while we're waiting on negotiations, especially if things are getting worse.
For now, Ogaji's brother remains stuck in Ukraine, but she says her daily communication with him gives her family hope.
He never gave or he never shown any negative feelings of the situation in Ukraine. So he always encouraged me. He would say, "Don't worry, sis, I will be fine."
No one knows if a ceasefire will be agreed upon anytime soon. For now, an escape attempt might be his only chance to leave Kherson. Timothy Obiezu for VOA News, Abuja, Nigeria.
Zimbabwe's main opposition won most of the seats in special elections on Saturday to fill in local authorities and parliamentary seats, which fell vacant since the last election in 2018. As Columbus Mavunga reports, analysts say the ruling ZANU-PF's gain of some seats previously held by the opposition may be a preview of the 2023 general election.
Douglas Monzora's MDC alliance lost all seats to Nelson Chamisa's Citizens Coalition for Change in Zimbabwe's urban areas, but the two where by-elections were held. Monzora says he's now looking forward to 2023 polls and wants electoral reforms.
Come next year, we will be having serious issues regarding the diaspora vote. So people in the diaspora must be allowed to vote, and we must push for these electoral reforms. And I think it is time that political parties, especially in the opposition, must forget their differences when we are dealing with these serious issues of reform.
Chamisa said his Citizens Coalition for Change party had issues with the way the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission had ran the election, but was happy with the ultimate result.
And the people have expressed themselves. They've said what we want is the face of change. Citizens know their leaders. Citizens know what they want and who they want. And they've made an emphatic statement.
The ruling ZANU-PF party spokesman Christopher Muchangwa says his party is happy to have retained its two-thirds majority in parliament and gained 2 urban seats.
The people are rewarding us accordingly. So we are saying to the president, more of the message of progress, more of the message of prosperity, more hope for young people. And that is what is going to win us a tsunami of an election in 2023.
Gibson Nikadzino, an independent analyst, sums up what happened over the weekend.
At a national scale, ZANU-PF has shown that it has the capability to mobilize. It still has an appetite to increase and mobilize the voting patterns of its members to win an election. Overall, we can say ZANU-PF it has won because it retained 7 seats and took 2 seats from the opposition to make them 9. Between the Citizens Coalition for Change and the MDC Alliance, this is just a contest to know who carries the history of the opposition in Zimbabwe since 1999. And ultimately, this has shown that it is Nelson Chamisa.
Zimbabwe holds a general elections next year, which the issue of deteriorating economy may decide which way the vote goes. Columbus Mavunga for VOA News, Harare, Zimbabwe.
During the special elections held for parliamentary and local government positions on Saturday, the opposition party led by Nelson Chamisa had a landslide victory, taking 22 of 28 parliamentary seats. The voting took place amid concerns over its credibility. For more on the voting, I'm joined live via Skype from Harare by Nelson Chamisa, leader of the Citizens Coalition for Change party. Mr. Chamisa, welcome to Africa 54.
Well, thank you very much.
So what strategy did you employ to win against the ruling ZANU-PF party this time round?
Well, I must say that our message is very much on point. We are connecting with the desire and hunger for change across the whole country. People want change. People want transformation. People want opportunity and democracy. They want freedom. And we represent that alternative. We represent what the people are yearning for. So we are an idea whose time has come.
So what does this win mean in terms of the upcoming general elections in 2023?
Well, this is a stepping stone, a resounding affirmation of the victory that is inevitable. Change is coming. Change is going to happen in Zimbabwe. The big deal is change in 2023. And I can tell you that the momentum in the country is already built up, and people are convinced that there's going to be change. We are campaigning for change, we are fighting for change, we are mobilizing for change. And we are glad that the people of Zimbabwe are with us. That's why we got the majority of the contested seats. Out of the 28 seats, we got 19. That's not a small achievement, particularly dealing with a government that is bent on violence, intimidation, abuse of state resources and national resources to try and perpetuate their, stranglehold on political leadership of the country.
So what are some of the issues, Mr. Chamisa, you think that Zimbabweans are most concerned about that may have resonated with your party's call to get you the votes that you got this time around?
A new governance structure, a new governance culture. The issue of opportunities, job opportunities, employment opportunities, education opportunities for the people of Zimbabwe. Dignity of the citizen. The dignity of the citizen is very important. Citizens of Zimbabwe have been deprived of their freedoms, deprived of opportunities, deprived of a decent life. All Zimbabweans need is decency, dignity, opportunity. That's why most of the Zimbabweans are now in the diaspora, in the foreign countries. But I can tell you that with what we are putting on the table, our smart alternative policy programs, which is a program to say Zimbabwe has to have an alternative governance culture. We must be anchored on transformation, fighting corruption, making sure that there's accountability in state affairs, but also ensuring that citizens are put first and are put at the center of decision-making, policy-making, and law-making. Those are the critical selling points that we have.
Mr. Chamisa, thanks. Zimbabwe's opposition leader Nelson Chamisa speaking to us live via telephone from Harare, Zimbabwe. We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. In Tuesday's health report, Lino Mudu speaks with the Africa CDC director. Still to come, an ancient curved mask from Gabon sells for a record price. But first, Hedy Adams tells us what's coming up on Wednesday's Straight Talk Africa.
How worried should the world be about the Wagner mercenary group? Join me, Hedy Adams, on the next Straight Talk Africa as we'll explore Russia's rising influence in the Sahel region. We'll also talk to the Prime Minister of Cote d'Ivoire about his plans to keep the peace and create jobs in his country. Plus, we'll introduce you to the new president of the U.S. African Development Foundation. All this and more on the next Straight Talk Africa.
The 94th Academy Awards ceremony ended in a climactic way, giving the Oscar for Best Picture to Koda, a seeming underdog that celebrated deaf representation. Other highlights included a shocking incident and women sweeping the Oscars for Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Song. VOA's Penelope Pulu has more.
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah.
In a David versus Goliath story, the coming-of-age film Koda, a heart-rending story with only 3 Oscar nominations, beat Academy frontrunners in the Best Picture category. Meanwhile, the Western psychological drama The Power of the Dog, a seeming favorite with 12 Oscar nominations, took away 1 Oscar for Best Director. Koda, a feature film about a deaf family, won audiences' hearts and spread awareness on deaf culture. The film centers on Ruby, a 17-year-old, helping her deaf family communicate with the hearing world and keep the family business afloat. Ruby loves to sing and dreams of going off to college to study music. Her dream seems to clash with her love and duty toward her family. Koda gained traction among Academy voters as a landmark feature film on deaf representation. Also, for the first time since 1986, when deaf actress Marlee Matlin won an Oscar for Best Actress for her role in Children of a Lesser God, her co-star in Koda, Troy Kotsur, won the Oscar in the Supporting Actor category, the second deaf actor ever to win an Oscar. During his acceptance speech, he hailed his award as a moment representing everyone in the deaf community. Koda filmmaker and writer Sean Hayter won the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay. Jane Campion nabbed the Oscar for Best Director for The Power of the Dog. The New Zealand filmmaker is the 3rd female director to win an Oscar after Chloe Zhao and Catherine Bigelow. Will Smith received his first Academy Award in the Best Actor category for his performance in the sports drama King Richard as the tenacious Richard Williams the father and tennis coach of iconic tennis players Venus and Serena Williams. In his acceptance speech, a tearful Smith called Richard Williams a fierce defender of his family. Smith appeared clearly shaken after his altercation with presenter Chris Rock when the latter insulted Smith's wife. Will Smith apologized to the Academy and to the nominees. Jessica Chastain received her first Oscar in the Best Actress category for her performance as American evangelist Tammy Faye Baker in the film drama The Eyes of Tammy Faye. Chastain also produced the film. In another first, Ariana DeBose took home the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for her performance in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story. She is the first queer woman of color to win an acting Oscar. She is also the second Latina to win an Oscar. The first was Rita Moreno, who won an Oscar for the same role of Anita 60 years ago in the original film version of West Side Story. Disney's Encanto is the first animated feature celebrating Latino characters to win an Oscar. The film features songs written by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Denis Villeneuve's epic science fiction film Dune took home 6 Oscars for Best Cinematography by Greg Fraser, Visual Effects, Sound, Film Editing, Production Design and Original Score by Hans Zimmer. Belfast, a heartwarming story by filmmaker Kenneth Branagh about finding joy in the middle of violence during the time of Troubles in Belfast, Ireland, won the Oscar in the category of Best Original Screenplay. The Oscar for Best Song went to Billie Eilish for the James Bond film No Time to Die, a fitting award since the 1994 Academy Awards celebrated the 60th anniversary of James Bond. Penelope Poulou, VOA News, Washington.
I thank you, Penelope, for that. Hopefully we get Dile Diko soon from Los Angeles. Moving on. All right, Dile Diko is live for us from Los Angeles. Joining us from Los Angeles, Dile Diko. Dile, welcome back to Africa 54. You know, everybody watched the Oscars, the 94th Academy Awards, but what really had people talking was the Chris Rock and Will Smith incident. Tell us a little more.
Oh, yes. We were surprised ourselves. We didn't expect that. We thought it was scripted first, that Will was going there in a dramatic way, reacting to what, Chris Rock said. And then when he went back and sat, we realized that it was actually a real issue and that he was very upset. So, so we're all surprised and everybody was stunned. We couldn't even speak, and like the ambiance was terrible at that time. So basically, Chris Rock made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith's appearance, and it is well known that actually Jada Pinkett Smith has an alopecia problem, so it's a sickness, and she spoke about it several times. So Will did not appreciate the joke at all.
That aside, Dile, there were other...
And it's also important to mention that... Yeah, I just wanted to mention that at the end of the evening, he actually got the award for Best Actor. So I guess that's the highlight, even if people remember the slap.
That's very true, Dile. Well, besides that, there were other very memorable moments for the 94th Academy Awards. Give us a few highlights of that.
So what's important is that the show was hosted by 3 women this year, and that's quite unusual. For the past 3 years, the Oscars did not even have a host. So the fact that they got 3 women, and they even made a joke saying that it's actually cheaper to get 3 women instead of 1 man. So, and after that, the other thing that's important to remember about this show is that Koda won Best Film this year. So it's a very important film about a young 17-year-old girl that's actually the only hearing person in her family, and she's basically trying to help her family navigate life, and they're all deaf. So it's shining a light on the deaf community and the Koda community. And also we have to mention, since we mentioned Will Smith as Best Actor, we also have to mention Jessica Chastain. She won the award for Best Actress for her role in the eyes of Tammy Faye.
Dile, thank you so much for the highlights. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the
VOA's Dile Diko reporting live.
Thank you so much.
From Los Angeles. In other African news, heavy fighting erupted overnight Monday in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo when fighters from the M23 rebel group attacked army positions near the border with Uganda and Rwanda, according to local officials and a witness. A witness says clashes occurred near the villages of Shanzu and Runyoni, around 50 kilometers northeast of the provincial capital, Goma. A spokesman for the M23 could not immediately be reached for comment, according to Reuters. A Kenyan court on Monday has acquitted 16 motorcycle taxi riders arrested over a vicious attack on a female diplomat after the state failed to provide any evidence against them. The Nairobi Magistrates Court ordered their immediate release after the prosecution said they did not have enough evidence to link the riders to the crime. A 17th man, the alleged leader of the attack, will however stand trial and face a maximum sentence of life imprisonment if found guilty of sexual assault. A carved mask from Central Africa dating from the 19th century was sold in France for 4.2 million euros on Saturday, despite Gabonese protesters in the auction house calling for the item's restitution. The rare wooden gill mask used in ceremonies by the Fang ethnic people of Gabon smashed its estimate of 300,000 to 400,000 euros at the auction in the southern French city of Montpellier. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.